All right. Hey everyone. This is a different video. Today I'm going to be talking about a movie that I just watched. It was so good to me that I just had to talk about it. It was a movie that a lot of my friends recommended to me. It's called Good Will Hunting, but I always just kind of put it off. Had other things to do, and I just never watched it. And now that I did watch it, I cannot believe I've never seen it before because the things it teaches you are pretty insane and unbelievable, and it makes you view everything about life a lot differently. So I just want to talk about the main themes and what I got from it, and why, if you have not seen it, you should definitely watch it. So just for some background, the film stars two main characters in Matt Damon and Robin Williams. Matt Damon being like the main character, and then you have his friend who is played by Ben Affleck named Chucky. So Matt Damon is this intellectual prodigy, right? And this is just background for the plot. And the film begins with him working as a janitor at this big intellectual institute, MIT. And everyone there is extremely smart. It shows this professor with this big lecture hall, and he posts a problem on a chalkboard in the hallway and says basically that no one will be able to solve it, and that only high level physicians, doctors, or professors would be able to. And long story short, no one in his class can, but this character, Will, the Matt Damon character, ends up solving it while working as a janitor, right? And he doesn't tell anyone. So everyone's completely shocked, and the professor ends up posting another one because they don't know who it is, and this one's even harder. So this character, Will, ends up solving that one as well, but he's caught. And as he's caught, he ends up running away. He tells him, he lashes out at him, cusses him out, doesn't let him get a chance to confront him. But the professor can put a face to work, which is important because the professor ends up finding him when he gets arrested for fighting other kids at some type of park. And he realizes that this kid is gifted but doesn't even go to school. He lives a life of drinking, smoking at bars, and he works these low-level jobs. And this contradiction is really weird for viewers because someone this gifted, and we're not talking just like Harvard level gifted, it's like the comparisons that this professor was giving to this character Will were on par with Albert Einstein and other crazy mathematicians. Is he's hanging out with dudes like this guy Chucky, who are guaranteed bricklayers, construction workers, because it's not something he enjoys doing. He doesn't want to be confined to this world of work, and it's not something that he sees himself doing in the future. So the professor makes a deal with this kid, and he says, I will get you out on probation as long as you basically study with me, and he can get to know him more about what he knows intelligence-wise. And the other part is he has to see a therapist, which is what he is initially reluctant to do, because he doesn't want to open up to everyone because of his past trauma, which is extremely important. And this is where we see some of the main themes starting to come up, because this kid, Will, goes through 5 different therapists because he just completely rejects all of them. They all call him crazy. His anger is too over the top because of this past trauma. He's been in and out of orphan homes. His foster parents, his regular parents, were completely just abusive to him, and he just can't have these human relationships outside of his 3 buddies that he hangs out with every day. And they finally get to this guy that the professor, well, his name is Gerald Lambeau, that he meets the professor's old friend from college, and that's the guy played by Robin Williams. And Will meets with this character, and initially he's the same way. He's completely just ragged. He is rude. He talks about the guy's wife, and he's just completely won't open up at all to him, and just upright terrible to him. As time goes on, the relationship between Will and Sean eventually sort of gets better, because there's the initial scene, which is one of the best scenes in the entire movie, is where Sean takes Will to the park and tells him the "Your Move, Chief" speech, which is basically where he's telling him that nothing about you I can get anything, or I can get anything from you from a textbook. So everything that you know is just up in your brain. And this is a very important distinguishing factor between intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence. And he's basically saying that Will has none of that. And this hits hard on Will. And you can see in the scene that he doesn't even say anything. And he's just listening the entire time. And he understands that this character, Sean, has been through an entire relationship himself, and he found a soulmate in this girl, Nancy, who he was married to, who eventually passed away and got really sick. And he explains to him that he's never felt this type of love in his life, and it's something that comes with wisdom, is that as you get older, you experience more things in life, and you can't just get wiser from reading textbooks and learning. You have to really experience things yourself. And this develops that sense of trust that Will only has for his friends. And you can see that he almost opens up more to this guy as the movie goes on, this therapist, because he knows that this therapist can understand him, and he knows how to fix his issue. And this fear that Will has of communicating to someone emotionally is the whole nature of the movie, is that this fear is rotting inside of Will. His past trauma is what makes him not want to open up to anyone, because in the past it just gets him hurt and he has to start all over again. So what happens is he gets this anger when people try to poke him and get him to get over this fear. And you can see that with this, he meets this girl, Skylar, and he gets all upset with her when she tries to ask him to come to California with her, because she's studying at Stanford and she really likes him. And then you kind of see the relationship crumble apart, because he can't fathom the thought of having a commitment like that, because you can see he starts to question this, and he's like, he doesn't say, what if I don't like you? He says, what if you don't like me? What if you don't like this thing about me? What if I mess up and do something about that? And he's automatically blaming himself, and he's putting all of this pressure on himself and overthinking the future, which is the nature of that fear, and it gets him nowhere. And it continues to make this angry, self-absorbed personality where he doesn't let anyone in his life, and he can't find any sort of human connection. And this is the heart of what Sean is trying to get at, is he's trying to get Will to understand that you have to open up and you have to keep moving in life. And if you don't, you're never going to get anywhere, because you can't be afraid of what's going to happen, which is an extremely powerful message, I thought, as I was watching. And this fear of change is something that also gets at him when he's looking for a job, and it's something that causes him to live his life the same exact way every day, where he wakes up, he hangs out with his friends, he drinks, he smokes at a bar, and he does it all over again, and he works these low-life jobs that get him nowhere, and he is afraid to pursue a higher level position or study at a higher university, because he doesn't want to get what happens with that change. He doesn't want to move forward in life. And the reason that Sean helps him so much is that he ultimately is able to basically get what the professor is trying to set up for Will. The professor wants Will to work for these big government agencies, and Will's rejecting that. He's reluctant to any sort of high-level position. He's saying that it's because the government is corrupt and he won't do it. But as time goes on, you see this one scene where Sean says, "It's not your fault," over and over again, which, to put in simple terms, makes Will break down completely. Because you can tell that he thinks that he has this guilt built up, and he thinks that the reason his past was so terrible to him was something that he did as a kid. And you could tell by just, in order for him to get over this, he just needs to hear this over and over again, and it just makes him burst into tears. And this is sort of where we see the uprising of Will and his future. Because after this point, he truly realizes that he can let go of this past trauma and embrace change and see the future without overthinking. And you see the part where Will finally takes his position at a high-level corporation, and he's at the end of his point in therapy with Sean. And it's something that Will is really reluctant to do because of how much Sean has helped him. But one thing I really liked about what Sean taught Will is a relationship point, is that he never regretted anything about his marriage with Nancy, his wife who eventually passed away. And he said that all of the struggle that came after it and all of the sadness that came after it was worth it because he found his soulmate who made him feel truly loved. And that is the type of connection that he wants Will to understand, which is something that he simply cannot grasp because all he thinks about is the people, the small circle he has around him, and what's up in his brain. And this really resonates with Will because you can see at the end of the movie, Will makes the ultimate decision to prioritize this girl over his job opportunity and to put it on pause and embrace the risk and what could happen with this change. And he drives and follows her all the way to California from Boston to give a shot with her at love and try to find that same soulmate connection that Sean had. And I think the overall goal with this movie and like the overall point is to really understand or get the audience to understand that you can embrace life as it moves on, and that there's not only the only point of life isn't just to go to school and work a job and make money. It's to find true connections that with the people around you and find people you can trust and that are loyal to you, which is a really big thing that Will didn't have growing up, beside from his friends. And you really see, in one of my favorite scenes of the movie, is you really see how close he was with his friends, with the scene where his friend Chucky, the guy played by Ben Affleck, says to him that the best part of his day is the 10 seconds where he in the morning he goes to pick Will up, and he says that he hopes that he will not see Will and that Will won't be there and that he had gone off to pursue whatever lottery ticket he had and that gift he had, and to do better things and to not be stuck up with them and work these bum jobs and just drink around all day, which I thought is a really good point to make for friendships like that. And it just is a good example of this ride or die friendship that they have, where the only thing that they are prioritizing is the well-being of each other and not themselves. It's a completely selfless act, and I just really do enjoy that scene. And I think that one of the best reasons that this movie stuck so well with me was the overall production, and every scene really feels like you're in the movie, and the way that when they record the car scenes, the camera's shaking and you can really feel like the tension in the room. And there was the one scene where Sean describes a baseball game and a crazy moment that happened in the World Series, and he describes that how he actually wasn't there because he was out spending time with this girl that he wanted to give a chance with, even though it was Game 6 of the World Series, walk-off home run by the Red Sox. And you can see the camera angle actually is in the sky, and it's 4 chairs lined up like a baseball diamond as he's telling the story, and he's hyping up Will in the therapist room, and you can really understand that moment, which is just like beautiful cinematography and completely mind-blowing, that these small details are something that you don't understand are contributing to the film, but they actually really do matter. And the dialogue is almost perfect. And the raw emotion that converses between Sean and Will in the therapist room, you can just tell that everything Will says resonates with Sean, and he understands it completely, because you can never see his true expression really change. You see him get mad, and you can see him get like where he's thinking and he's trying to like understand Will and get him to open up, but you never see confusion. Like, he always is understanding Will as a person, and I think that's just like the ability to build that wise character in Sean is just perfect, and it's also just great acting on Williams' end. So overall, I would say this movie is a complete 10 out of 10. I would recommend it to anyone, literally anyone. Romance enjoyers, philosophical enjoyers, just overall cinematography enjoyers. It's just a perfect movie. I loved every minute of it, and I just wanted to talk about the things that I enjoyed of it and the themes. And I hope you enjoyed watching. And that's it. See you guys.